The clip, clip, clip sound was getting louder. I started panicking a little, now more urgently trying to finish the wheel change. My hands were fumbling. I couldn't seem to get the wheel nuts to line up properly. I kept glancing towards the approaching light. Then a figure began to emerge from the shadows.
I gotta go potty.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Darkling Chronicles. My name is Becky. I hope you're having the best Sunday you've ever had in your life. If you're not, because you've had a pretty shitty week, don't worry. Because as normal, you know this place is for you to come, chill, relax, okay? I'm going to be reading to you tonight from my Ghost Stories book. I will put the link to it in the description. It's a relation of all real ghost stories sent in by you guys. And I put the book together myself. I did notice there is a spelling mistake on one page. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. I did check it thoroughly. I even had other eyes checking it, but you know, we're just human. So there's 51 stories in this book. If you want to grab it, it's great for a coffee table, for the toilet, for a gift for a mate who loves this kind of thing. It's like just a little addition, you know. There's no extra postage. It's $12.99. Postage included in that. And yeah, it's just a little labour of love, really, because, you know, I just loved putting it together. So it's in the description if you want it. If you don't, it's no dramas. I'm going to read it to you anyway. And yeah, so I hope you've had a great week. Just a little bit of admin, if you can. This page has gone wild. And when I say this page, I'm talking about Spotify, Apple, and YouTube over the last 2 weeks have flown. And I know I keep banging on about it, but I'm just so grateful that you were all here listening, that you were all here listening to me. It's just mental. I just can't get my head around it. You know, I'm effectively, I know I'm someone, but effectively in the world of, you know, the internet, I'm a very small person, so I'm really grateful that you're here. If that makes any sense, thank you. So I am going to. It's raining outside. I'm going to read to you some stories. I was going to walk the dog today. Actually, I was going to walk the dog later on today. I'm still going to go, even if it's raining. It's fine. You know, he deserves a little walk, doesn't he? Bless his little heart. And I like to get on the nature reserve here, and it's just such a beautiful walk, even when it's raining. It doesn't even really bother me. But I've been doing some social media work today for some people, and just helping them out. And yeah, it's just a really busy weekend. It was my nephew's birthday party. Went to watch a load of 12-year-olds run around a sports hall playing football. You give a boy, I was the same as a girl, to be fair, as a little girl. Give them a football and they're happy for days, right? That's where we should all be at. We should all be that happy with that simplicity in life. It was lovely to see, though. Yeah, took the dog out yesterday for a massive walk. Then went to Aldi, did a big food shop. You probably don't care about this. I'm sorry. You're here for the ghost stories. I'm going to get into it. But what a busy weekend. And there's more work to do. But it's fine because I'm here with you guys now and I can chill. We can chill. Bring the tone down a little bit. Let me know how your week was. I want to know. Let me know in the comments how your week was. Let me know if anything. Do you know what? Let me know if anything absolutely miraculous happened to you last week that you want to share with me. Because I'm going to tell you this. My car was booked in for an MOT on last Thursday. And what a Thursday just gone, you know what I'm saying? And it was due to be about £734 because I asked for an estimation. All in all, it cost me £189. I know. A miracle of the week. And it was just because a few things that I thought needed doing like quickly didn't actually need doing for a little while. So I can now spread them out. Don't know what's going on with my hair. Sorry if you can see that. How amazing is that? So that's my miracle of the week. Let me know if you've got something cool that's happened to you, little miracle of the week, because we just love to hear it. Spread a bit of positivity. Or if you've got like a really happy story that happened this week, you know I'm going to love a spooky story. So always send that to me. And make sure you email me if you've got a ghost story. If you just start listening or you've been listening for a while, you've been sitting on a ghost story or a creepy happening that you just can't explain. Maybe it's a premonition. I love reading all that kind of stuff here. You can email me, thedarklingchronicles25@gmail.com. I will, of course, put the email in the description so you can get it easier. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's followed. If you are listening and you haven't followed yet, please make sure that you follow and hit the bell if you're on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Apple. so you get notified about when my new episodes go out. If you want to join the TDC club, that is basically Patreon, and there is a free version and there's a paid version. Don't go through the Apple app to pay. It will charge you £6.49. It should only be £4. Okay, go on your desktop, sign up, and then sign into your Apple Patreon app. That's the way around it. I've been banging on about that every single week because I don't want everyone to be ripped off. What does that get you? At the moment, it gets you access to my podcast every week, a week earlier than everyone else gets it. There are additional things that I post on there as well, generally for the free section, because I don't, I want to make sure that I'm still adding some bits in there. So it's just little updates about what I've been doing. And I did actually, just to let you guys know, I did actually go on a ghost walk this week. My friend Rachel messaged me a few weeks ago and was just like, do you want to do this ghost walk? And at the time I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I do. So if I'm not like affiliated with this company in any way, shape or form, but I really rate them and they've been so lovely. They're called X Tours, EXTOURS, and they've basically just blown up. So they've started doing tours in like Weymouth, Dorset, and Poole, in like Sherborne, like different areas around Dorset, but also I think they've gone a bit further afield as well. So it's around the south. And I was told by the guy who did our ghost walk that they are actually going to start doing experiences soon where you can stay in prisons. I think it's Dorchester Prison, which is just down the road from me, but imagine that. I don't know whether I should do it or not. I might get Chris, the paranormal Viking, on that one to come with me because he's brave. Also staying overnight is it's like next level, isn't it? That's next level stuff. I know that Helen and her sister Claire would probably be up for that, and they crack me up, so I'd be well up for going with them too. But yeah, I went on a ghost walk. It was brilliant. They told me so much history about Weymouth that I had no idea about. Some of it I did know, and he even gave us equipment, like a K2 meter. And there was a road, like I didn't even know it was there. Actually, it was a lane. It's called Helen's Lane, yeah. But apparently back in the day, it used to be called Hell's Lane. And the building is now split into, I think it used to be like a naval base or something, he said, but it's now split into different apartments. And apparently it's one of the most haunted buildings in Weymouth, which I had no idea about. And then the opposite side of that, there's the other side of the harbour, there's a lane called Love Lane, which is lush, but this is not so nice. There is a guy seen in a plague mask, the one with the like the beaky looking thing. There is what are they called, like witch doctors or something? I don't even know what they're called. Let me know. I'm having a moment. My brain's going. But yeah, he is seen on Love Lane. Can you imagine casually just nipping out to get some milk and then coming back and seeing that geezer stood in front of you? For the life of me, I would never go out again. I probably would just move. I'd move from that area. But there were so many cool things that he told me about Weymouth that I had no idea on. And I said to him at the end, I was like, please, can I do a podcast with you? Because you can teach us things. Everything you've just told me about Weymouth, I think that my listeners need to know about because it's brilliant. And he said, absolutely. So we're going to make that happen. I'm also going to try and do a chat with the guy who owns X Tours. So the guy who did the walk was called Wes, really cool guy. Really knowledgeable on what he, on his walk and what he does. And I think that was the very first walk that they did in Weymouth. So really happy to be a part of that. Had no idea, complete fluke, accident. And yeah, I'm going to do a podcast with him and also talk to his boss. I believe his boss is called Bobby. That's the Instagram name anyway. So that'd be really cool. Watch the space for that. That's going to happen. Now, I'll get into reading you these stories, and I'm very sorry that it's taken me so long to get to the point. But we love a little bit of waffle and a little bit of chat, don't we? Well, I do. This next story is, I'm just going to read it to you straight from the book. That's what I'm doing. The next story is story 38, and it's called The Boy in the Portrait. Now, she says, so this story is going to need a lot of backstory to it. I'm Sheffield born and bred and lived in a 3-bedroom house with my mum, dad, little brother, nan, and my great nan. That's a lot of people in one house. My great nan's room was always the coldest room in the house, and she always used to say, she's getting watched. And my nan and my mum always used to say, she's being paranoid. I was born in 1993, and as soon as I could speak properly around the age of 2, I used to shout, Dora, and point at the portrait, which was an old painting my nan picked up from a car boot in the early to mid 80s. She was my friend, but she was imaginary, according to my parents. I used to lift my arms up to the portrait when we were going out so she could come with us. Or I would make my mum hold her hand in public. As you can imagine, I bet my mum felt like a complete idiot walking around a shopping centre holding my hand and then Dora's hand on the other side of her. One day we lost Dora. On one of those rides, you put money in as something caught my attention and I ran away. Naturally, my mum ran after me, and that was the last time I saw her. The ghost must have just got bored and just wandered off, just like, oh, I can't be asked for this. I'm going to go see what they've got in Dorothy Perkins. We don't know how old Dora is. I've basically just made her an old person. She sounds like an old person. So she says, a few years later, we eventually moved from that house, and my great nan moved into a care home due to Alzheimer's. She passed away when I was 13, but she always used to say the same thing. The room's cold. I feel like something is watching me. Dora was hung up on the wall in the small bedroom, and we used to hear footsteps running around the house and catch glimpses of shadow people out of the corner of our eyes. A few years passed. I had moved out due to my mum and dad splitting up, and I went to live with my dad. But I'd go and see my mum, brother, and nan pretty much daily. In 2014, we all welcomed my little girl, the first grandchild, first niece, and first great granddaughter. Everyone was so in love with my tiny little girl. And as she grew a little older, the portrait of Dora was still on the wall in my nan's bedroom. So I took my daughter to see it, as I wanted to see how she would react. She's put in brackets, bad mum moment. Well, she screamed, and no matter how hard I tried, she wouldn't settle at all until I took her out of that room. My nan decided to put a portrait in the shed, as she said it is a bit dated now. A few nights later, my daughter was in bed and I was downstairs watching an episode of a ghost hunting series. This certain episode had the exact portrait of Dora in it. So I messaged the ghost hunters team, but had no luck hearing back from them. I only started talking about it again when I came across your videos on TikTok. That's me. She's talking about me there. Asking for ghost stories. So I submitted this story. I got in touch with the Ancient Ram Inn, which is where Dora's portrait is. And so basically, the Ancient Ram Inn have the exact same portrait of this oil painting that this, obviously, she called Dora. So she's got in contact with them. She says she had a conversation with the lady who went around the Ram Inn to get a photo of Dora for her after she explained her story to her. She's currently in the witch's room, and her eyes just follow you around the room. Spooky. They didn't know anything about the portrait or anything, but my partner is very good with technology, and I didn't realize you could do a Google search. It came up with The Little Boy by Jean-Baptiste Greuze. I've butchered that. I'm sorry. I have The Boy in the Waistcoat. So it wasn't a little girl, it was actually a boy. And she says, since the video went out, a few people came forward saying their grandparents had the exact same portrait. Another one said her friend's parents had it too. But what has stuck out was a man who inherited the same portrait from his late uncle. And someone even commented, is it a vessel? Still to this day, we don't know what or who was in the portrait, but last time I checked, Dora was still in the shed, covered in dust and looking creepier than ever. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to show you one here. But if I try and, what am I doing? I don't think that's going to work. There you go. That is the picture. If you are watching on video now, you should be able to see that. That is the picture of the portrait of the little boy. And that's what Dora, this spirit, would come out of. So do we think that it's a vessel? It sounds like pretty much a vessel situation, doesn't it? From what I can gather, so this lady did speak to me. Forgive me, I can't remember your name, but we have spoken a few times on TikTok. She did have a few people message her, but they did say that their portraits aren't haunted like hers is supposed to be. So it might not be a vessel. It might just be that something attached to hers, and it might have been, someone who used to own that, and then that picture went to the charity shop, and then her great nan has picked it up and put it on a wall. That's generally how these things happen, isn't it? Now this one, I'm reading you really long ones today. I hope you're settled in and ready. I feel a little bit like the door's open behind me and no one's home. So I'm just like, this one's called, it's story 39. It's called A Tap on the Shoulder. So now I'm just waiting for a tap on the shoulder. But if that happens to me, you will never see me run so fast in your damn life. I'll be gone. I'll be gone. Okay. Now, this is from a taxi driver. I believe his name was Chris. I might be lying. God damn, I need to get a better memory. With all the things I do, you have to forgive me, okay? These things do fall out of my brain, but it's fine. So he says, it started about 20 years ago. I was a taxi driver at the time and was living with my then girlfriend and our 2-year-old son. We were having relationship problems. And one day I was sitting in the living room. No one else was in the house when I heard something metal hitting something in the kitchen. I went to look and found a butter knife in the sink. I know there were no dishes or cutlery on the draining board, but it was definitely what I heard. That was the first thing. About 2 months later, I picked up a taxi fare from a pub. This woman gets in my car and tells me where she's going. I'm about 2 minutes into the journey when she asked me, "What is wrong with your belly?" She said, "I'm not being rude, I'm a clairvoyant, and we were just doing a show, so I'm filled with these energies and there's lots of messages coming through for you. I know you're a non-believer." She carried on for a bit. Then when we got to her address, she asked me if she could hold my keys. I gave them to her just to shut her up more than anything else. I love his honesty. She holds my keys for about 20 seconds and then she says to me, "You're breaking up with your girlfriend and there's a little boy involved. All you have to do is talk to her and you'll be able to sort it out." She then said, "I normally charge £20 for a reading, but there's so many messages here for you. I'll do it for free. Here's my number. Please give me a call." I don't believe in that sort of stuff, but looking back, she was spot on. Around that time, I finished work around 2 a.m. in the morning. I came home and was just finishing a cup of tea. I went into the kitchen to wash up, and as I went to go through the door, something stopped me. The blackest thing I've ever seen, just a mass of black. I could see the door frame, but the doorway was black. I took a step back, looked at it again, and said, "Sod it. I'm not going to be intimidated in my house," and just pushed through it. I know I saw something. It definitely physically stopped me. Pretty rational guy, but I couldn't explain it. Nothing happened then for months. My girlfriend and I officially split up and she moved back to the northeast where her family are from with my son. I started to get my life back on track and got a flat. One day I'm in the bathroom, standing having a pee, when I felt something tap me on the shoulder 3 times. I thought it must be a twitch. About 2 months later, I get a letter from someone claiming to be my daughter from when I was 19. I meet her and she is my daughter, but that's another story. We become close and me and her mum start seeing each other again. He's put in brackets, I know, that's a bit weird, but that's life. So one day, me and my daughter's mum are in the flat and I'm sleeping on the couch. She wakes me up, telling me someone has tapped her on the shoulder 3 times. She thought it was me until she saw me asleep on the other side of the room. A couple of months later, I had just been given custody of my son, so I moved him back to Liverpool with me. He was 7 at this time, and he'd been back about a month when he came to me and said, "Dad, someone just tapped me on the shoulder when I was in the bathroom." Now, the really weird thing is, as I said, I'm a taxi driver. On Boxing night, I pick up 3 women from the pub. They've had a few drinks, but they're not drunk. I drop the first 2 off locally, and the third is going about 5 miles away. We chatted for about 5 minutes, and then she just stopped talking. I get to her address, turn around to get paid, and she's crying her eyes out. I ask her what's wrong, and she says, "You'll think I'm mad, but who the fuck is the old woman sitting next to you? She's been telling me to tell you she's got a message for you." She then said, "I'm going to have to reevaluate my beliefs because I don't believe in ghosts." She then got out and ran into the house. I've got to admit, it freaked me out a bit. 2 days later, I'm in town working and get a job. I pick up a woman. The second she gets in the car, she says, "Why didn't you call me?" It was the clairvoyant from a year before. She then goes on again about messages. A week later, my dad gets in touch with me and asks if I've talked to my ex recently. And I said no. He then tells me that my ex's mum died on Christmas Day. My ex asked my dad to pass a message to me, which was, she knew it wasn't your fault. Her mum must have been the woman in my passenger seat, and that must have been the message. Aw, it's like, that's made me like a bit teary actually, because how lovely is that? Breakups are really messy and really hard, and like you're put in a position where you have to kind of block or just kind of separate yourself from people that like you love still, like even the family members. So in a situation where kids are involved, I can imagine that there's so much left unsaid and you can't justify yourself or you can't explain your side. So you just have to allow it to lie, it just has to be as it has to be. But for her to actually be so like caring about him and just be like, I know it wasn't your fault when she's in spirit. That's such a beautiful message to receive. And one I would imagine that just kind of dissolves all guilt or, emotional residue very quickly, which is just so lovely. It's a long story, but it's one of my favorite ones. I love that one. I don't know what the tap on the shoulder was though. Do you reckon that was just her just tapping everyone? Or do you think that was a separate spirit? Because it sounds like this guy had a lot of stuff going on. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was more than one spirit in that situation. It feels very much like that, doesn't it? Now, this one is called, it's story 40, and it's the shuffling in the hall. This is one of my favorites too. I just can't believe this one. Like, I do believe it, but I just can't believe. Ugh, it freaks me out. Anyway, she says, okay, well, this was going back 30 years ago. Me and my son moved into a little 2-bedroom flat. My son was probably 8 years old at the time. I had a lot of decorating and carpet laying to do at the time. So me and my mum decided it was a good idea if my son stayed over at hers back in our hometown during the school summer holidays. And that would let me get on with doing the flat up. So that happened. I had a boyfriend who sometimes stayed over, which was no problem, except he snored like a pig. So before my son went to stay at my mum's, whenever the boyfriend started snoring, I would shut the bedroom door and go to sleep in the sitting room on the sofa. This one night, while my son was away at my mum's and my annoying snoring boyfriend started again, I got out of bed to go to the sitting room. But then I thought, I may as well keep in my son's room, in his bed, instead of the sitting room. I shut my bedroom door as usual to block out the sound of the snoring and then dived into my son's bed. It felt luxurious and cozy. I had the hall light on as I didn't enjoy the pitch black, so everything seemed nice. My boyfriend was shut in the noisy bedroom, and I'd only been laying there in my son's room for about 10 minutes when I heard someone shuffling up the hall carpet. The shuffling of footsteps. I was wide awake looking at my son's bedroom door entrance. The only door shut in the flat was my bedroom door. The walking, shuffling sound came into the room. For the love of God, everyone hold on to your knickers or boxers. The sound carried on right up to the side of my bed. There was no carpet in this room, yet I still heard the shuffling come right next to me. I was wide awake just trying to get comfortable. Then I felt hard pressure instantly on the top of my leg. It started sliding up my hip, up my waist, and then up to my armpit. I was frozen with fright. I could see that there was nobody there, but the hand felt so real. Eventually, I managed to leg it and dive out of the room and straight into my bedroom where my boyfriend was still snoring. I didn't tell him until the morning, as he wouldn't have believed me in the middle of the night anyway, and I wouldn't have been able to wake him even if I'd tried. So I told him in the morning, and he just laughed at me, saying it's in my mind and it's playing tricks on me and stuff like that. Life carried on, and I kept painting and decorating the flat. Then my mum brought my son back home after his stay, and she stayed over a few days before going back to our hometown. During this time, I told her what had happened to me, but I made sure it was always when my son was out playing with his friends and I didn't want to scare him. About 2 or 3 months had passed, and me and my son were well settled in. My boyfriend still came over, and yes, he still snored like a pig. So, as usual, I shut the bedroom door and went to Kit on the sofa. I was just getting sleepy when I heard my son shouting, "Mom! Mom!" I dived off the sofa and ran into his bedroom. He was so scared. He said he'd heard someone shuffling up the hall carpet to his bedroom door, but that he couldn't see anyone there. That's why he started shouting for me. I tried my best not to look like I was panicking because my son had basically described exactly what had happened to me in his room. Trying to keep calm, I told him he was probably having a weird dream. Then I said, "I tell you what, I'll grab your mattress and you can come sleep in the sitting room with me." We both agreed that that was a good idea, and I never told my son anything about my experience in his room until he was all grown up and married. We only lived there for about a year. Well, I don't blame you. You know, one shuffle too many, I think. 1 year too many, I think. This next one, oh, I've got to read you one more. I'm going to read you one more. Okay. This next one is from Darren, right? And obviously, if you listen to my TikTok page, you know that Darren is like the king of all ghost stories. He sent me so many and they're brilliant. And they're all genuinely real and true. And this is my all-time favorite one that he sent me. It's such a classic. And it's called The Man with the Wooden Leg. So he says, "Hi, this happened to me around 1991. I was collecting a car and returning home. By the time I reached the outskirts of Tewkesbury, it was dark, around 10 p.m. at night. I was driving along a quiet country lane when I got a puncture. I pulled over, got the spare tyre, jack, and tools from the boot, and started to change the rear wheel. The car was jacked up, the puncture tyre was off, and I was trying to get the replacement wheel into position when I heard a distant clip, clip, clip sound. I stopped for a moment, looked down the country lane, peering through the darkness, and saw a small, flickering light in the distance. The clip, clip, clip sound was getting louder. I started panicking a little, now more urgently trying to finish the wheel change. My hands were fumbling. I couldn't seem to get the wheel nuts to line up properly. I kept glancing towards the approaching light. Then a figure began to emerge from the shadows. Within 20 seconds, it had taken the shape of a man walking towards me. The clip, clip, clip was coming from a wooden leg. He was holding a wooden lamp, a candle flickering inside, and he wore a long coat, something like you'd imagine from the 17th or 18th century, and a tricorn hat on his head. The sound of his step echoed louder and louder on the lane as he got closer. By now, I had just about tightened the last of the wheel nuts. The figure was only yards away. I could barely breathe, completely frozen with fear. Without taking my eyes off him, I fumbled for the rear door handle, grabbed the punctured tyre, jack, and wheel brace, and tossed them into the back seat. Just as I reached for the driver's door, the figure spoke to me in a gruff yet oddly pleasant voice and said, "Can I help ye?" That was enough for me. I yanked open the door, jumped into the car, and floored it up the lane, heart pounding, barely breathing. And in the rearview mirror, I saw the flickering lamp fading away into the darkness. That was the scariest wheel change I've ever had. Let me tell you. Well, let me tell you, Darren, you handled that a lot better than most of the population. I think I would have fainted. I've never fainted in my life, but let me tell you, in that moment, I would have fainted because there's no way in hell I know how to change a tire, let alone get away from something while I'm trying to. Oh, it would just be horrendous. Now, I hope you've really enjoyed all those ghost stories. I love them. If you've got one, please, please, please send it to me, the Darkling Chronicles 25@gmail.com. You can also go on my website, which is www.tdc25.com. And you can go to my contact form on there if you want. Everything that you need, the TDC Club, the podcasts, everything like that is in the link that I will put in the description. It's like basically my holy grail link. It's got everything that you could possibly need in it. I have actually done some prints as well, which I designed myself because I haven't designed the actual illustrations, but I've designed them and put them together myself, and they're quite funny. All right, I'm really proud of these prints. You can get them in all kinds of different shapes and sizes if you want, but they're quite funny. So check them out as well. They're in my link. But yeah, I hope you have a brilliant week next week. Sending you lots of love as usual. And thank you so much for listening. again, please make sure you hit all of the stuff, and recommend this to a friend if you think that they might like this podcast, and just listen to me waffle on. I'm really grateful that you're here, and you take care of yourselves.